Hello and welcome to episode 66 of the Inventive Marketing Club. We're here every week to help you build a better marketing strategy. On this week, we are looking at the rationale behind brand design. We're joined by Charlotte Smirthwaite Walker, who's from Flying Lizard Design, and she's going to be taking us through her brand development process that she has when she's working with a client, sort of diving into the details. And I believe maybe a little screen share of some of the work and how she sort of goes through that process. Good morning. How are you doing, Charlotte?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, very good. A little chilly here at the moment, but I'm bearing with it. And for you guys, I'm, not wearing a big woolly jumper. I'm trying to look reasonably smart.
I am. I don't care. I don't care how it looks on screen because it's freezing in here.
It is pretty chilly, yeah. So we met through a mutual client. I was developing their website, but they work with you on all of their brand and artwork, and you do everything for them. And they're very insistent, said, you've got to work with Charlotte. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll work with someone else. That's fine. And so we got on very well. And so we worked on that project. And we've often, when we were talking about the project, we'd talk for a long time about various things outside of the project as well. So I thought you'd be a great candidate to come on and sort of share some of those things that we were talking about.
Because we end up talking for hours, don't we?
Yeah, usually about something we have a strong opinion on, and we're both as bad as each other, I think, when it comes to that. So that was a really good project, and I recommend anyone, if you've got an interest in trains, or your children have, definitely go down to Perry Grove in the Forest of Dean. They'd love to see you there. And they've got lots of lovely cake, which I haven't experienced, but they're always eating it on the Zoom calls with me, which is most unfair. Anyway, back to you, Charlotte. Do you want to give us, just so people know who you are, give us a brief history of how you got to where you are and what led you into design?
Yeah, so I went into design right from early on in my studies, really, because I always knew what I wanted to do. I'd always had a leaning towards art and design. And so as soon as I had done my A-levels, I went straight to a design college down in Cornwall. An art college down in Cornwall, and so I never really went into anything else. There wasn't a gradual build up to right now I want to be a designer. It was just, that's what I wanted to do. That was what I always wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a creative. So graphic design, although actually my vision originally was to be an artist and actually a fine artist, I realized that is a very difficult area to kind of actually make money in. And so a lot of artists that I know tend to then go into some form of design or illustration. I do both. I'm leaning more heavily towards illustration these days, but I kind of specialized in branding during my graphic design career, just because I think it's the first thing you start with when you start off with a company. It's the introductory thing. You have to get it straight in your head what your brand is going to be, and your brand is everything that informs your whole dealings with all your clients, and your dealings with the public. It's kind of your shop window to the world. So it's about everything, from what clothes you wear to how you treat your customers, how you come across. And in actual fact, often with a branding package, I start with that. And they, often people come to you saying, I need a company logo. And you're like, hang on a minute. Company logo actually comes much, much further down the line in terms of how you decide what your company is going to be.
I was going to ask about that. Do people mix the two up, logo and brand?
Yeah, completely. And I think, a good designer, the first thing they will say to you is brand is not your logo and your stationery and all of that. It's really, that's a very small part of it. And that is part of the bigger picture. So it's important. It is, because it's one of the first things people see. But it's not the most important thing at all. So often, if you have dealings with a designer, when you start out with your brand, you will kind of find them giving you all these technical terms or terms that you might not be familiar with or understand, such as coming up with a vision statement, specifying your USP, which is your unique selling point. And that can be a little bit daunting. I mean, I know some designers who start off with a form and say, fill in this form. And
which is not what you think when you go to a designer, is it?
I know, and don't kind of go into what is the form for, why are we doing this exercise, what is it about, and all of that, and you're kind of faced with this wall of red tape almost when you're starting out, and I don't think that's a good place to start, really.
No, because you've lost all that enthusiasm, haven't you? You come to a designer thinking, thinking they're going to put your logo together, and then suddenly they go, well, you've got to take a step back and fill this form out. Actually, yes, you need all that information, but there are ways of getting that that are a lot friendlier.
Yeah, definitely. I have to say, when I first started as a junior designer with another company in my first job, they were very like that. It was very sort of technical and very structured, very ordered, the approach to how we deal with a new client and things, and I never felt comfortable with that. I always felt as if it was instantly inaccessible to most people, and not very welcoming, not very friendly, and actually it kind of puts the client off immediately, because
it doesn't seem like a fun process.
Yeah, exactly. When you start a business, you're all passionate, or even when you want to rebrand your business, you've got an excitement, you've got a passion, and then if you've got to fill in a form and do all this technical stuff, it's kind of a joy killer, isn't it? You just kind of like back down to earth with a bang, with a crash, and that shouldn't be what it's all about. You should need to keep that passion, because that is actually part of your branding, your passion and your vision for where the business is going. That is your vision statement. So you need to kind of keep that going, keep that creativity, and actually it's easier as a designer if you've got creative thoughts going and creative juices flowing and all of that. So
do you want to are you able to still walk us through, let's say you've got a new client coming to you're going to talk to them, talk us through the process, what you'd do, where you'd start.
Yeah, so we usually have a bit of a kick-off meeting, as it were. Sometimes that initial call that I have with them, if we've both got time, that can happen immediately. Although you don't want to spend too much time on that, because the client might not then follow through with the job with you. It all depends if you mesh and have that kind of click. But I usually do try and make that first call last as long as possible, so that I can gauge, can we work together? Is this going to be a good fit for you? And sometimes I actually end up recommending somebody else, because I have a lot of contacts in the design world. And sometimes you have to admit it's not going to work, because you have to have a good relationship with a client. You have to get to that base level, that nitty gritty of what are we going to do together.
Because I guess you want to build clients for the long term. You don't want to work with a client that just sort of churn through them. So you want it to be a good relationship, one that you're not going to regret in 6 months' time.
And I need to know them inside out and their company inside out, because otherwise you are going to produce something that isn't what they need. It's not about what they want, it's about what they need to actually make the brand work. So any good designer would be able to advise you on what you need, and it might not be what you want at all. But anyway.
So what are the sort of first questions you'd start with? What would you ask them?
I would tend to start with the whys of it. Why are they starting their company? Why do they want to do this? Because that is part of the dream, and therefore part of your vision statement. So, and it's not all about, I just want to make money. That's not it at all, because if you just want to make money, you may as well not start a business, because starting your own business is a tough thing. It is really hard. That first 3 years, even the first 5 years, I mean, they say a lot of new businesses fail within the first 5 years, don't they? So without that kernel of your passion for why you want to do it, that's other than I need to make money, it's not going to work at all for you.
Yeah, because you're not going to get past the wall of waiting until you have enough contacts and clients that you're going to get that work coming in, or the products being bought, or whatever it might be. And that is such a big amount of effort to get past that could take, a year, 5 years, depending on what your company is. You need energy, and if you're just in it for the money, it's not going to get you through that, is it?
Yeah. And if as part of your brand you have this vision statement, you can kind of remind yourself what it's all about. Why did you start off? And then remind yourself what your brand actually is.
Yeah.
Via this vision statement. What is the dream? What's the reason? How are you working through this? How is that informing your brand, your public image, your shop window? So,
yeah, and I like that, the dream, because that's the dream. I mean, when we were discussing coming on, you were talking about what is it that they had in their head that made them want to start this? Because if you know that, yes, you can build on that. You can take that, and that may turn into their brand.
Yeah, in fact, it does. It does turn into the brand, and kind of it also, your unique selling point comes out of that, because and this is a bit of a controversial view, if I'm honest. But it is possible for your unique selling point to be you. And if you are at the heart of the business and you do things a particular way that brings the business together, then your unique selling point, you can forgive yourself for that being you. I mean, I've heard so many people say nobody is irreplaceable in a business. In a large corporation, I've faced that myself. Nobody's irreplaceable. That can't be you. But if you are the heart of your company and it was your vision to start off with, and the brand is basically to do with you and how you felt that things should be, then it's your unique selling point. So then you have to get into the realms of saying, well, what is it about me that makes this business special? What is it about the way I do things that informs the rest of the way the business works? And then that will lead to you discovering your unique selling point. So
I don't know why anyone would disagree with that. I mean, yes, you might ultimately be able to find another company or person to work with, but it might be hard to do that because you built up a good relationship with them. They delivered on time. You liked the conversations you had with that person.
Yeah.
You liked the things they did, the things they said, the way they acted. All of that is a kind of magic in a way. It's why we work as people so well together. Yes, you can find someone else to do the work, and you might build up another relationship, but it's not going to be the same one. It's definitely not going to be the same one. So how do you, let's say someone wanted to go down that path and it was their personality was important, how can they sort of really understand what's important about who they are, and then how can they articulate that?
Yeah, so you might want to emphasize the fact that you're very friendly and very personable and very relaxed, and so your brand needs to reflect that. So your environment might be a relaxing, calming environment when your customers come in. You've created this, relaxing, calming, friendly kind of environment. Let's sit on the sofa, that kind of thing. That's all part of your brand. That's the way your company feels to your customers and things. Or you might say, I'm a very professional person. I'm very straight talking. I'm the kind of person who likes to wear a suit and be smart. And therefore your environment, your office environment or your shop environment or whatever might need to be quite businesslike, maybe have some sort of meeting table and have a high tech around you and all that kind of thing. And it instantly brings someone into the mindset of, right, we're doing business here and we're not being friends.
Yeah.
And so those are two very diverse things that you can say would be part of your brand. So yeah.
And what about if it's so it's maybe a larger company, and maybe the brand, the USP isn't about the owners of the business who might not be present so much? How could that be articulated, do you think? I'm just trying to think of an example. I don't know if you've got any, but I'm just trying to think of Perigrove, and I don't know how whether that the owners are present all the time in the business and visible. I don't think they are really. They might be there in the background, but they're not present necessarily on a day-to-day basis. So if you're going to visit, they wouldn't be part of it. How can that sort of brand come out? That sort of brand.
Well, that is where your brand statement comes in. So when you start your brand exercise, what your designer will give you is a document that says what kind of imagery are we portraying, what kind of symbolism are we using, what kind of language are your staff using, are they friendly, are they professional, are they, you know, personable, are they people who just get on with the job, you know, all those different kind of things. And to use Perigrove as an example, their kind of feel at that railway is that it's a very charming, very, let's get back to the olden days of steam trains and things like that. And the staff are very friendly. They're just the whole kind of ethos to it. Let's say, you know, the steam train drivers might be wearing a very traditional, and that's part of your brand, what people wear. What do they look like? Are they in suits? Are they in work clothes? Are they, you know, in t-shirts and jeans? That's all part of your brand. And if you have this brand statement, when you take on new staff, that is something to give them to say, this is how you talk to customers, this is how you answer the phone, this is what you need to wear. And if in the interview, if that turns out that that's not a good fit for them, instantly, well, this isn't a person that fits our brand, therefore it's not a person that's going to work. Same if you give your brand statement to a new designer. So your old designer retires, you need a new designer. You give that brand statement to them and they instantly know, right, this is the kind of image that we're trying to create with every piece of branded material that we produce. We're trying to be friendly, we're trying to be traditional, we're trying to, you know, that's how that kind of works. And so it's really important to have that. Otherwise, when a new designer or a new member of staff comes in, they are going to be something else, something other than what you want them to be, and the brand's just going to get jumbled and people won't understand what you're trying to offer, they won't understand what you're trying to be, and then it can be quite a confused kind of message. It can look disorganized. That's kind of
which you definitely don't want. What other questions do you ask to really drill into the detail, and sort of, because it must be difficult, you know, you can't, and I think for some designers they might just ask a question, right, we need to do the vision statement, so tell me how you what you want to do for the company, and they might leave it at that. But I think the importance is that drilling into more, not letting the client get away with just a few words, is actually say, no, I want more detail, I want to exhaust all the details, I know everything. So what questions would you ask to do that?
Yeah, so one really important thing to think about is, who do you want to attract? Who is that person? Who is your ideal client or your ideal visitor in terms of, say, like the railway, or, you know, any tourist attraction. I work with a few different tourist attractions and a few different tourist boards. Who is your customer? Do you want to attract a family? In which case it needs to be friendly to children as well as adults. So, you know, or you might be trying to attract a London business person who, you know, they're not going to want children's colouring sheets and things like that. That, you know, it's just, so you've got to kind of think about who is it who you are trying to reach. So that's your next important question. Are they who is that person, who's that ideal person, and then that will inform what you then do as your design. You don't have to think about what you're going to do for the design. Your designer does that. All you have to think about is who is that person. They will do that job for you of then saying, right, this is what we need to produce to attract that person. That's their job.
Do people find that an easy question to answer? Who is your client?
Yeah, usually.
Because I find that because I have to ask something similar when we go through marketing exercise, because we need to know who we're targeting. And some people go, well, I'll have any client. And I go, well, you can do that, but the problem is you probably find this, that your messaging is going to be not directed at anyone in particular. So it's not going to appeal to anyone in particular, and therefore it's going to fall flat. And I think it needs to have, the more you can target it within reason to specific people, your ideal clients, as you say, the better.
And that's also rubbish. People don't want to attract, not necessarily. Let's say you are a hotel who offers 18 to 30 holidays, but you're also a hotel who just wants to have anyone who wants to come to the hotel. Or let's say you're a hotel who doesn't want that kind of customer. There's always something that is undesirable. If you own a holiday let's say, you don't want a load of stag do guys to come along. That's not what you want. And certainly for me as a designer, there are certain people that perhaps I don't want to work with, and I will then advise them what they can do, who they can then work with, because my design style is quite a friendly style. I use a lot of illustration. I'm not so corporate perhaps, and
it's nice. I love all the stuff you've done for Pro Growth. I mean, it's lovely, the little details, because we, just as an aside, and people should go and look at the website for this, we wanted something to break up the content. Just because otherwise it's just image content. It gets a bit samey. But I wanted some dividers in there, and you created these lovely dividers which were different themes in there. So there's a little forest theme, there's a little wedding theme because they do weddings there. There's a little train in one of them. I think their kids are featured in one of them. I mean, they're only little illustrations, you can't identify them, but they are in there. And it's that it's that the detail that goes into it. It was lovely. Anyway, some people might not like that. They go, well, that's not something I like, or my customers are going to like, and therefore it's not going to work, is it? And you have to sort of move them on. So it's important that you know, and you do, your ideal client, but I think customers really need to know, because like you were saying with holiday let, they might want anyone because they might be desperate. They're just starting up. They'll take anyone, but really, will they take anyone? Because once they have that hen or stag party group there, they won't want them again. And I actually really like it when people are very strong on, right, these are the type of people we want, because they've got, maybe they're retirees, they've got money, they've got time, they don't cause us any problem, they pay, they're no hassle.
That's what I was trying to convey, but very badly.
It is funny, yes. And I always think when people say, I'll take anyone, you won't. Won't. There will be limits to that. When you're developing a brand for a new company, is it important that they sort of reach that they have a really good, clear brand to begin with, or is it okay that they can evolve into it? Maybe because of money or knowledge, they don't really know what they want yet.
Absolutely, it's all right if you don't know. I often have many people who want to do something and want to monetize that and make it their job, but they have no idea what they want in terms of their brand, in which case it becomes a bit of a psychology exercise. What is the person like? You have to, who are you as a person? What is the core of who you are, and what type of experience people would have when they come to you for whatever your offering is, and that will then lead to your brand. As I say, I had one client who really didn't know what they wanted, but they actually had a lot of ideas. And so they gave me all these ideas and said, we want this. And it appeared that they knew what they wanted. So I went ahead and I was like, right, okay, this is an easy task. They've already got it down, what they are, what they want. And then when I presented the initial ideas, they were just like, no, that's not what we're about at all. And I completely missed the message because they didn't know. It appeared that they did. So yeah, I have to be very careful these days. That was early in my career, I have to say. I don't go that way anymore. I'm much more cautious these days with a client, because actually what they say they want and what they actually need are two completely different things. So yeah, if you have no idea what you want, actually it's the job of your designer. I can't stress this enough. It's really important. I'm not trying to big myself up or say you need a designer, I'm going to be a good designer for you. That's not what it's about. A good designer will be able to get to the bottom of what it is that will be your brand. So that exercise, actually all you need to do is just talk about yourself, talk about what you want to do, talk about all of that kind of that dream. What was that dream that you caught? Why are you doing this? And who are you as a person? And therefore what is your offering going to be like? So yeah, it's fine to start from nothing and just say, I want to do this, I want to be an artist. And you kind of might think, I don't need a brand at all, but actually you do need a brand.
Yeah, you all have a brand, because what is it that people say? A brand isn't what you do, it's what people say about you. And so in doing your work, you may have the brand already, but you just don't know it, because really it's how your customers refer you and talk about you, and that is part of it. And so yes, you can start somewhere and then sort of evolve from that. What I was going to ask is, I think you've got a few examples to show. It might be good to see if you're able to screen share, just to sort of talk us through a recent project. I think it's a recent project.
Yeah, I've got one particular example. If I can screen share this. Can you see that okay?
Brilliant. Yeah, we can see okay. Greenhouse logo on the screen. Great.
Yeah, so this company, they're actually a juice bar. It's two ladies who run a juice bar, and they're very focused on healthy living and that being inside and out. So mental health as well as bodily health. But they didn't know that in the start, because they were focusing on, we want to sell juice, we want to sell smoothies, and this is what we want to do. And that kind of evolved into, what are your smoothies like, what is your juice like, what are you trying to do with your customer, what do you want them to feel? And then came the conversation of, we want it to be a really relaxing space, we want people to feel comfortable there, we want people to feel happy there, we want them to feel as if they are going away feeling good, not just because of what they put in their bodies, because of these healthy smoothies and juices and things, but also because of how it made them feel when they were there. So what we then drilled down into, if I start to zoom around a bit, is the general look and feel of what their juice bar was going to be. So they want it to be really relaxing. So you can see that this mood board conveys what the place is actually like. You've got natural woods, you've got greens and natural colours, which plants as well, which automatically are definitely relaxing. People love to get back to nature, don't they? They love to get back to the core of what they are, what nature is, what people are. anyway, so we've got all these natural materials. You can see even the bar, the welcome bar, is made of wood, and that led into kind of what they were going to wear, how they were going to appear. So we've got these lovely.
Oh right, so yeah, that's part of it as well.
That's part of their uniform.
Yeah.
So they wanted to appear, you know, fairly bright and cheerful. I'm not quite sure the reasoning behind them having black t-shirts, but we did discuss having these kind of plant, you know.
Hey, it makes their legs pop though, doesn't it? Having
it sure does, and obviously that's down to their decision ultimately. But so yeah, the whole place, you can see the logo in the background, but it's kind of natural colours and muted colours, and it's very relaxing. And they've got some nice sofas as well, which I don't have pictures of. They're actually behind the camera, so people can kind of cozy into the sofas. And then happily, the frosted windows actually give you a bit of privacy, so that you don't feel, you know, you kind of feel as if you're cocooned in this nice sort of space, but happily also the sun shines through and creates this lovely silhouette of the
so that's going to move throughout the room during the day.
Yeah, right. Exactly that.
That's very cool.
Then from all of that, the last thing we established is, what is their logo going to be? Because otherwise, you know, I could have just had 2 cups of juice. Like, you know, if that's all about, let's have 2 cups of smoothie and just put a straw in them, and that will be, you know, or we could have had bright colors or something like that, and that could have been the brand. If they'd wanted to attract maybe children and families, the brand might have been bright colors and lots of juice splashing about everywhere, or all of that kind of thing. But you can only establish where this logo went because of all the rest of the brand that informed what the logo looks like. So just to explain this design, obviously we've gone for muted neutral colors, because that is, you know, green, because that has been a big theme with the plants and, you know, green. And I went for a mandala shape, like a mandala, because that has been associated, that symbolism, that symbolistically is associated with a spiritual kind of internal journey, because it's associated with Buddhism and Hinduism and that kind of thing. And it's very much like all those kind of symbolism is about focusing your attention during meditation and things like that. So the mandala kind of subconsciously also for a lot of people is associated with meditative you know, kind of things, and a spiritual kind of journey. And then
so for some people that will resonate, for others, I mean, I didn't realize that, so for me, I don't see any of that in it, and that won't affect it. But for people who know, then they'll see more of it in there.
Yeah, so their customers do tend to be people who want to be well, or in mind as well as body. So their ideal customer, they wanted to focus on people who, you know, wanted to be healthy, wanted to be. And so they are the type of people that would understand the imagery of the mandala, usually, generally speaking. And
so you would take them through, when you're going through the process, you would help them come up with not only the logos you see here, as you said, that's the last process. It's really to then help them come up with some of the look and feel for their shop as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's part of your brand. How do you greet your customers? Is it friendly? I mean, even just here, you'll see the counter. It's a nice high counter so that people can have the juice, you know, rather than it being too low. They're going to have this juice and it's going to be natural. And that's how, you know, it feels when they come in. It's things are easy and ergonomic and make your life easier rather than more difficult. If you're drinking juice, you don't want it to be on the floor and slopping around, do you? So the idea is creating that atmosphere that is easy for your customer to feel as at home as possible. And that is all part of what you've created of your customer experience. And that is what your brand is, really. at the heart of it is, how do you want to make your customer feel, and therefore how do
Yes.
you want to have your image come across?
How are you going to make them feel? Yeah, that's so important, because at the end of the day, emotion is what drives a lot of what we do, even though we may not realize it. Can you just scroll over to show the left a bit more? Just the juices, do they all come in the little containers? Are they like little shots like that, or are they just tasters? I'm just wondering.
Those are tasters. Those are
right,
tasters.
okay.
So that is on the counter, and when
lovely.
it comes in, they can instantly have a little taste and decide what juice they want to have.
Oh, that is interesting.
What smoothie they want to have. So
that is a really good idea. I often forget that often pubs will do that as well. If you ask for a little taste of each of the beers, you can try them out. But I haven't. You normally see that with people outside the shop walking around trying to get people to come into it. I think it's a really interesting idea that they have that in there.
Yeah.
So that people, if you're not sure, because otherwise you don't know, you might not like the taste of it, or you might just be going on what it contains. But I think it's got to be that whole experience. That's really nice. I like it.
Like that green one, I wouldn't automatically be attracted to that. But if it's on a taster board, I can think, well, I'm going to try eat one of each. I might love it. I might absolutely love it. So yeah.
It also gets you to see all the variety as well. You can see everything right there.
Yeah.
And so where are they based?
They're actually in Lanston in Cornwall. You can tell I'm a local, can't you? Locals call it Lanston, Launceston.
Launceston, yeah.
Is what other people call it.
A few times.
Launceston.
I used to have a friend that lived there. Oh, well, next time I'm down, I might check it out. It looks good.
Yeah, it's lovely. I believe it's still there, although we created this a number of years ago. Because actually I was talking about customers who don't know what they want, and then you as a designer making the mistake of coming up with something that's completely wrong by not asking enough questions. If your design doesn't ask you a ton of questions, then definitely be afraid, get worried, because that's not
yeah, because that's what they need to do, isn't it? And I was actually going to say before we started sharing this, one of the key things that people need to do is trust the person they're working with, and that goes for design, copywriting, web development, any sort of trade person you're working. I said trade, doing up the house at the moment, but anyone you're working with who's going to be doing something on your behalf, who has the skills that you don't, you've got to trust them to do it. And that's really important. You don't want to micromanage what they do, because you will end up with something that you might think will be better because you're micromanaging them, but you're going to waste your time on it when you should be spending that on the business. But also you might end up with some Frankenstein thing that doesn't really, it might work well for you, but ultimately this is for your customers. This is outward facing. It's not for you to appreciate necessarily. It's for your customers to appreciate. And I think unless people should trust their designer to get on and do the job, and even if it doesn't sing to them completely, if you trust your designer and they've been highly referred and recommended, you've got to let them get on with the job. It's so important, because I do find even in the world of web, some people will some clients might micromanage certain things, and I think the end result doesn't come out as well.
Yeah, say that, but it is also the job of the designer to persuade the client that is what they want. So
okay, that's good. So how do you do that?
So you need to come at it with explanations of why you've done what you've done, and why whilst being as nice as possible, why what they want is not what is needed. So it's kind of a debate that goes on there. If someone's going to micromanage something, it's no good to just kind of say, well, this is what you need, and I'm the designer, therefore I know, and then you go away kind of as a customer feeling that you didn't really get what you wanted. And sometimes you end up going to somebody else and then paying for the job twice. And actually the new designer might say, well, that is what you need, but have a more persuasive argument for why that's what you need, or produce something slightly different, but it's actually still along the same vein. Everyone's going to approach things a different way, aren't they?
Well, often that there's it's trying to get to the nub of what the problem is as well. Sometimes a client might come back and say, it's not exciting enough, or it's not, I want it to be more dynamic, or they use words, but there's no meaning behind those words as to what.
I was just about to say, but what does that mean?
Yeah, and you've got to go, well, yeah, can you describe the problem that you're having with it? And then we can start to work it out. And I've certainly had that with web development, where people are saying, oh, there's not enough color in it or something like that. And actually all they wanted is just a black bar, it's not a black bar, a colorful bar behind the text or something like that. Whereas when they said that to me, I'm thinking, well, it's all wrong. It needs loads more in it. Whereas I think it needs to be simple. And they're taking it in this really strange direction. But actually, they just wanted something. They just weren't able to articulate it. I think that's
the process is the thing. And if you don't trust your designer, well, do it yourself. Why not? If you've got these really strong ideas about what you want, go away and do it yourself and see how that works out.
Yeah.
Because more often than not, it won't work out.
But actually that is good, because then when people have been through that process, either they do come out with something they love and that's brilliant, or they've gone through the process and realize how difficult it is. They procrastinate, they've got other things to do, they never get around to it, or what they do, they realize it's not effective. And actually sometimes getting people to go through that process can then help them become a better client in the end of it, maybe, because they come back tail between their legs a little bit. It's not about the I think for me, when it comes to design, and I'm talking design of websites rather than the design you do, Charlotte, but it's more about helping that client through the process, as you say, and just sort of, they don't know, they're coming to it, they're all fresh and they're all excited, and they have an expectation. It's like, well, no, let's go through it together, and that can be exciting for some people.
As a web designer, you have the hardest job with that, I think, because there are so many do-it-yourself web design programs out there, with templated stuff and things like that. But you can see it a mile off. Let me tell you, if your website is from a template and it's not been designed by a web designer, instantly your customers are gonna know. They're gonna know. And exactly what do you want. If you don't care about what your company looks like, then that's a good teller of, are you going to care what service you provide for them? If you don't care what your website looks like, I'll just put it together because it'll be cheaper, it'll be easier, I'll put this in a template and then it's done. If you don't care about that, do you care about them? Do you care about your customer? And that's what you have to instantly think about. Anything you put out there, it says that you care. It says that you feel it's important what image you're portraying. And I think web is the biggest one for that, because everywhere you look, use Squarespace and you'll end up with this amazing website. Use Wix and you'll end up with this amazing website. And it's so tempting, I think, for people to have a bash at it themselves. But it's obvious. It's obvious. You've got to get someone who knows what they're doing to do it.
Because it's not just about the layout. But in some ways, I'd almost prefer some people have a go at doing it themselves, because then they come to you and go, well, here's the mock-up. Can you make this into something, an actual real website? Moving on, I think you want to talk about bad branding, and you've got an example of how that went wrong when it was in a recruitment process. Just take us from the beginning.
This is actually, let's put logos and all of that aside, and talk about personal branding, which is what we were talking about earlier in terms of your personal image and, down to your uniform and all of that stuff. I actually was in on a recruiting process for a junior designer. I was a senior designer at the time, but I wasn't the decision maker. The boss was the ultimate decision maker, but I was in on the interviews, and we had some very disparate ideas of what we wanted from, the junior designer. I was looking at a perspective of who can I work with, what sort of person is going to be easy to work with, what sort of person is going to be passionate about what they do and want to learn, and want to kind of who I can, you know, give some help to, and who is willing to listen and willing to progress, and, you know, that kind of person. But the boss, it was a high-tech company, so it was coming to work wearing a suit, or, you know, a dress suit, and I went into work every day wearing a dress suit, which isn't really what I would choose to do as someone who's artistic. I want to feel comfy. I want to, you know, something I can sit at my desk all day long because I'm in front of a computer designing. And wearing a suit, you know, it just isn't the thing. But that was what the company was about. So when people came into the interview, we got it down to 2 people, and there was this chap who was suited and booted. And if you've ever interviewed designers, they tend to go with smart casual. That is a thing during interview. As a designer, a creative person, it tends to be smart casual or fully casual. Because generally speaking, if you're working in-house for a company, you're in the office upstairs, you're not customer facing. It really actually doesn't matter what you wear. And so, you know, and that obviously was a bad decision for my favourite person for the job. She came in looking like a rock star with quite a few piercings, mad hair. And I was like, yeah, I think this person, she's creative. She's got a passion for it. She interviewed really well. She had a fantastic portfolio. And there came this other guy who was also one of our top ones. His portfolio was reasonable. It was fairly staid and fairly corporate, which is fine. The company was a high-tech company. It was corporate. So he'd done his portfolio to match the kind of image that the company was portraying. Yeah. And he got very technical about it. And so, you know, the boss felt that he was a good fit in terms of the company brand. And I agreed, he was a good fit. In terms of, in general, you know, he was comfortable in a suit. He was going to come in. He was going to be au fait with the company image and all of that. And he seemed very organized. He seemed very direct. And so, yeah, great, organized. Let's get things done. Brilliant. That's exactly the kind of thing my boss was looking for, let's say. So we took him on, and it turned out that he was completely disorganized. Me and my colleague, who was the events manager, we actually went on holiday. This was about 6 months after he'd started. And within 6 months, you should have a general grasp of what your job is within the company. He did basically nothing during that time. He did nothing because the company was such that there were hundreds of staff, and you know, as the designer, you really have to push things through. You have to follow through. I was continually calling people, saying, what's going on with this project? You know, let's progress this project, because people would go, I need something such and such, and then just leave it there. And so it was kind of your job to push things through, push the design through, and make it happen, drive it as such. And he didn't have drive, which is exactly what it looked like he had in the interview. So he got his personal branding wrong completely, because he appeared to have drive. He appeared to have organized way of working, where actually in other jobs in the past that I've had with agencies, design agencies and stuff, he would have fitted really well with them, because they had a more relaxed, a more structured management, where the managers
so he's almost fed work.
Yes, exactly that. And he would have been very comfortable in that environment. And, you know, if he had just worn his jeans and t-shirt, he would have fitted in perfectly, because, you know, with that other company, fictitious company or whatever. But his personal branding was, I want to work for this corporate high-tech company, and, you know, I'm very direct and organized. And that's what he looked like. But that wasn't who he was at all.
Yeah, and that's bad for both parties, isn't it? It's bad for the company that hires him, because they're not getting the long-term employee they want and the output they want. It's bad for him, because he's likely to be either, you know, moved on before his year's up, or he's going to want to leave because he's getting too much pressure and doesn't want it. And what's the point of that?
Clearly very uncomfortable in the post, clearly. So I was driving him saying, phone so-and-so, do such and such, go downstairs, speak to this person. Oh, I don't know who they are. I don't know, you know, and I'm just like, well, go downstairs and ask.
Yeah.
So I need so-and-so, where is he? You know, and he was very much, I just want to be fed the work, and can you do it? And then I'll do what you tell me to do.
Yeah, which is fine, which is absolutely fine, but in the right place.
Fine.
Yeah.
That job that I'm talking about, where I was with the agency where the work was fed, I didn't fit in at all there. I really didn't, and I actually only stayed there for 8 months. That's how long I lasted. I left. Yeah. Because it just wasn't me at all. I couldn't be, you know, micromanaged. I couldn't be fed the work. I wanted to have contact with the client. You know, I was, God forbid, I was ringing people up. I can't work if I can't talk to the designer. And
yeah, you need to.
They were like, Charlotte, who did you call? I was just like, well, I've got a phone on my desk. I called my client. What did you say to him? You know, it's just really not me at all, not me. And yet it would have been would have been perfect for him. He would have felt very comfortable in that, I think. But yeah, so that's an example of rambling on about who your
but it's absolutely worth it. And it
is about your brand. How do you look? What do you dress like? Who are you on the outside? And if it doesn't match with who you are on the inside, it's mis-selling of yourself, isn't it? It's you know, creating this false, and eventually that's going to crack and people are going to find out. Eventually the mask is going to come off because you can't keep up that image. So it's the same with your brand. If you're trying to portray something that you're not, it's mis-selling to the client. They think they're getting one product and they're getting something entirely different. So it just means that you lost sight of what type of customer that you're trying to reach. You have to drill down to that again, that who is my ideal customer? Because you might think it's this sort of person, and in actual fact you can't deliver what that sort of person is looking for. So you need to say, well, no, I need to change my focus. You can still do the same job, you can still do the same thing, the activity for your business, but you need to be clear on, you know, who your customer is and what can you offer that customer.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. It's something I wish I had sort of thought about much earlier in my career as well. But you know, often we make these mistakes. But when you do start,
oh, that sounds like a juicy story, Ben. Do tell.
Oh no, another webinar. All the time. I've worked in many different, actually not many different places, but for lots of different people. And it for me it's personal confidence. It's about who you are. But it's, you know, that's the brand. And I think for me, certainly you can see a client a mile off that you're not going to work with because it just doesn't connect with them. And but that comes from knowing your brand. And I think that just sort of flows through everything. Anyway, we better finish because we're coming up to the hour. Otherwise, we'll be going on for another hour. Maybe we can do that another time, Charlotte.
Yeah, sorry, I started to ramble towards the end.
No, it's good. So do you want to share your, where can we find you online? So if people want to work with you and they feel that they can, you know, that you can actually deliver them something good, which I know you can, because I've recommended you a few times. Thank you. Are you able to, share your contact details, best way for people to find you and maybe see some of your work online? Yeah,
so my website is flyinglizarddesign, all one word, .co.uk. And that's the design half of the business. And I'm also on Facebook as well, at Flying Lizard Design, and Twitter, although I don't tend to use Twitter that much. But if you're looking for the illustrative side of things, so art and illustration, then it's charlotteandstudio.co.uk. And that I'm much more active on Facebook with that, to be honest.
So we're actually looking at some of that the other day, weren't we?
Yeah, really, I keep that very up to date. I think social media is the way forward. Yeah, definitely. Really nice. You really need social media in order to make your website work properly. Definitely the two go hand in hand. Your search engine optimization will work much better if you're active on social media as well.
Yeah, it's good. Right. Thank you very much. Just to everyone else, we're here every Friday at 10 a.m. Covering lots of different topics. Claire, what are we talking about next week?
So next week, then, you're going to be giving us a walk through Google Analytics version 4.
Yeah, thank you. I've been wanting to do this for a while because Google Analytics, as it stands, version 3, I guess you could call it, although they haven't named it that, is going to be coming to an end, and they're going to stop collecting stats from websites next June, at the end of June next year. So they're going to be forcing everyone to convert over to Google Analytics 4, which is their new package, but it's quite different. So I'm going to go into a walkthrough of that system, from setting it up on your website, or converting your current account so the data starts flowing into GA4, and then a walkthrough so we can see the differences between the two, because it is quite different. So I'm looking forward to that. But we cover lots of other things: strategy, social, SEO, video, lots of stuff. You can see all of that on our website. So if you go to the club, if you're a club member, log in and you can view all of the back catalogue, which is coming up to 4 years now of content. And since we've been started doing it weekly, we've obviously come up to done quite a few of those now. If you want to share this with a colleague, just share the Zoom link so they can hop on next time. Do let us know. We always like to know who's coming along. Just email us, support@ratherinventive.com. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.